Good evening. We are here with another episode of You don't have to be perfect. You just have to get started. And before we get started, let me give you our new intro. You don't gotta be perfect, you just gotta get started. Don't overthink it. Just go where your heart is, turn your dreams and your goals. Let your goals shape how you live. Success is inevitable if you're willing to give up your old self to become someone new, to be the true you. Never be afraid to do you in front of the critics, sideline judges, non-believers, people holding their grudges. Appreciate the hate. It comes with the winning. When your why's big enough money, you're unstoppable from the beginning. Your excuses are useless. Let your actions be part of the solution and watch the income it produces. Recognize greatness, a supreme revelation. Years of blood, sweat, and tears to become an overnight sensation. Can't do it alone. I should have said this first. Teamwork always makes the dream work. Teamwork always makes the dream work. Always makes the dream work. And we are so blessed. After that wonderful introduction, I want to give a shout out to DJ Meltdown, who produced that wonderful introduction. He had a heart attack, so we want to send shout and love to my brother. He is back. We want to love our family like no one else. And we want to say we have a treat for y'all today, a special treat. We don't just have someone who runs one business, right? But we have the Queen of Kwaanza, who is now running multiple businesses. She has taken one passion, flipped it over, turned it into something else, and now she's funding a whole nother passion. So, ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome Miss Jevatee Jevatee, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank
We are
you.
so
Thank you
glad
for
to
having
have
me.
you. Yes, and it's a pleasure because what you have done is something amazing. First of all, you've taken your first business. Let's not. We're going to dive into the Queen of Kwanzaa, but let's start with your first business,
Okay.
Project Move.
Yes.
Right? You have decided to make a living out of things that most people are afraid to do. You're helping people declutter their life.
Yes.
How did you come up with that as a business model by helping people declutter their life?
So I just want to say one thing is that I realized that in 2025, I will have been doing this for 10 years.
Wow.
And that that amazed me because it doesn't feel like 10 years. Um,
Wow.
so I started this out of, I just needed something to do. A lot of times we have situations in our lives where I was downsized from a corporate job. And if anyone has ever been downsized from a corporate job, you know that you feel like your world is ending. Like there's no, what am I supposed to do? Because we treat our jobs as our being, as who we are. And that taught me a valuable lesson in 2015. Well, actually 2014 when it happened. It taught me a valuable lesson that your job is not your defining thing. And so I had some friends, some mentors that were able to surround me and to remind me that my job was not who I was, that I am so much more than a job or a job title. And they told me to start looking for the things that I like to do, the things that I bring me joy, the things that define me. And so I looked at that, and in the meantime you're like finding odd jobs and opportunities. And I had a really really good friend. She had just had, her mom had used a move manager in Atlanta, and she was like, I bet you could do this too. And she gave me a shot. She let me try it out on her, and it was it was hard. It was like, is this really what I want to be doing? But it was so rewarding. And I just jumped in. And so I was doing it as what you like to call a side hustle while I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And so I was still looking for a corporate job, and I was just trying to figure it out. And so the one thing that I would take away from that experience is that it taught me that I am not my job. And if that's one thing that I can have people take away, is to remind themselves that they are not their job. Instead, you are a being that has feelings, that is important to other people and other things. And you need to remind yourself of that always. So that's how I got started. It wasn't fancy, but it was very meaningful.
And that's amazing, right? Because you turned a tragedy into
Mhm.
triumph, right?
Yes.
Something that could have been devastating, because when people lose their jobs, a lot of times they lose themselves, they lose their
Mhm.
purpose, right? And it's easy to just give up, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So for you to find yourself, for you to find the passion that not only defined the next chapter of your life, but allowed you to, lean into your love. That's awesome. So, so when you were, as you were- and I'm glad to learn this origin story, right? So as you were finding that passion, right?
Mhm.
How did you decide that it was going to be? And I know you said someone gave you a chance, right? But that chance doesn't always mean that's what I want to do, right? Like, so after you did that moving thing, now how did you decide? Oh, this is gonna be all right? This is gonna be
I'm not
okay.
gonna I'm not gonna say it was an instant it's gonna be all right. I continued, like I only did it part-time, because when you're starting a business, you have to remember that you can go all in. There are people who are saying, I just quit everything and I just stopped, and I knew that this was what I wanted to do. Well, I still had bills. I still had life. And so I actually continued to look for a corporate job. And I did some contract work, and like I even got a full-time job, and I was like, well, maybe I want to do operations. So I worked in retail operations. Um, and let me just tell you, what I learned is that I that no one is going to value you as much as you value yourself. And I also learned that I didn't like the job. And so I was doing my part-time job in addition to this full-time job, and I actually made more in the month working part-time than I did for the entire month working my full-time job. And that's when I was like, well, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. However, I am convinced that every opportunity that you get gives you the experience to leverage that into something else. So I am not sad that I had that experience, because it gives me perspective when I say, well, maybe I don't want to do this. I can just be reminded of what I did before, as well as it gave me perspective that I wanted to be in a position where I could control my own income, and I wanted to have flexibility, because one of the things that the job didn't allow me to travel as much, to have the vacation that I wanted. It didn't allow me to have the flexibility. If there was something I wanted to do during the day, I couldn't just say, well, let me just get that done. And so I knew that I wanted that from entrepreneurship. And so I was able to create that life for myself.
And I love it. And I love it that it wasn't perfect, because that's what this show talks about. You don't have to be perfect. You just got to get started. It wasn't a perfect start, right?
No,
You weren't
no,
even convinced you weren't convinced in your own mind that this
no,
was
no.
how
And
you did.
I actually did not go full time. Like I was part time until 2020. So the year of 2019, that was when I, quit the corporate job that I had gotten. And I was like, I spoke to my husband. I'm like, we're going full time. And he was like, well, if that's what you want to do, then you get to go full time. And it was exciting. Like, remember 2019, we didn't know what was coming in 2020. And so 2019, I'm like getting myself together, lining up clients, and everything is just rolling great. January comes, and I'm like, this is going to be awesome. I'm full time. I'm full time. And then February comes, I'm full time. It's a good thing. March comes, you're a little bit concerned, but I'm full time. This is going to be awesome. And then the world stops. And then I'm like, I'm full time, but I have no work. And that was a huge experience for me. But the thing that I did during that period is that's when I started investing in myself as an entrepreneur. And this is where I tell a lot of people who ask me, like, what can I do to get better? And I say, invest in yourself as an entrepreneur. Find classes on how to do your skill better. I took classes on how to be a better organizer. I took classes on how to, market the business, how to pitch the business. Every class that I could find that was free, because believe it or not, there are a ton of free classes that are available. Because remember, I had no income, so I couldn't be spending a ton of money. I did invest in a business coach, and I did have to pay for that. But the idea is that you really have to use those periods where things are not very busy to invest in yourself. The best advice I got from a very close friend that said, if you're not investing in your business, you're not your business probably will not grow. So think of it this way: if you're not doing the skills on how to be a better business owner, it has nothing to do with the skill on how to do your particular task. It's like if you don't understand how to grow your business, how to work with employees, how to contractors, whatever those skills are that you need to do your job, then you're not really growing your business. And it doesn't matter if you are the best organizer in the entire world, no one will ever know because you don't know how to market yourself. You don't know how to talk to anyone. You don't know how to manage the money that you do get. So no one's ever going to know that you have those skills. And so as you are thinking about being the best in whatever skill your business has, make sure that you're still investing in yourself. And so that's where I would tell people to start. It's like it's not whether or not you're the best at your skill. It's going to be like, how do you leverage that so that you can take that skill to the next level.
I love it. I love it. Because you're giving some real nuggets here. Most people forget that I'm not a businessman. I'm the business
Hmm.
man, right? So if
Hmm.
you are the business, right, you have to invest in yourself, right?
Exactly.
You have to become a better leader. You have to become better at customer service, right? You know, um, you have to be able to put on every hat that your business needs you to wear. You don't need to be the best at it, but you need to be able to put on that hat in case you got to wear it for some time, right? You
Yeah,
know,
and I agree with that statement completely because even though I am capable of doing all the tasks, you have to remember that your job is not to do all the tasks. And so I know that I lean on my good friend Paz over here, and he has a whole big old consulting company that does marketing material and helping with just kind of bringing some of the strategic portions of the business together. It's not to say that, like, I don't come to him with nothing, like to say, I understand the information that he needs in order to be able to pull what he can pull together. But I also know that he could pull it together in 30 minutes and it might take me 5 hours.
And
And
I love what
when
you're
I do
saying.
the math, when I do the math, me working 5 hours is way better than me spinning my wheels for 5 hours. So that's where you have to start being able to feel comfortable to understand. Like if I go out and work 5 hours, whatever your hourly rate is, you're never gonna. It's not gonna take him 5 hours to do it. So if your hourly rate, let's just say your hourly rate is $100 an hour, and if you're doing it, it's $500. Whatever service he provides you is going to be probably under $500, especially if it's a flyer. Like it's not going to be like a $500 flyer. So then not only have you spun your wheels and you're frustrated, you've made it so that you couldn't book any other business because you've been frustrated with this particular task. And so sometimes the start is just to realize that yes, you are capable of doing everything, but you're not supposed to do everything. And then understanding who's around you that can support you so that your dream can actually get bigger.
I gotta give you those claps because you're speaking some real golden nuggets. Because one thing Paz learned early is what Paz likes to do, and everything else I delegate. Right?
Well, okay, so I'm going to give you a little caveat. There are things that I don't like to do. However, they are still things that I must do. And the only reason why you do them initially, because like you have to get to a point in your business where you understand how to give instruction on what it is you need. And so, even though you may not enjoy something, if you don't understand it, you are not able to give good instruction to the person that you're delegating it to. And so, you need to make sure that before you throw all the tasks that you don't like across the fence, that you understand how to do those tasks. So that when you provide instruction, you're not like saying, okay, now give me a flyer, but you don't understand what it needs to look like. You need to understand what it needs to look like because when I give instruction, he needs to understand my brand. He needs to understand who I am and what it is I offer. I don't like doing it because I'm not good at it, but I do understand what it needs to include. And so don't get it twisted and think just because you don't like it, you don't have to think about it because that's not true. I still have to think about it and I still have to be strategic about it. I just don't have to physically do every single task.
Yes, yes, and it's really important that you say that because even when you delegate, just because you
Mhm.
delegate don't mean you don't have to overlook it. It just
Oh
means
yeah.
you don't actually have to do that physical task. Like I no longer like web design. I can design a website. I've been
Mhm.
designing websites since HTML. I don't find it fun. So you delegate, right?
Yes.
So you got to find out what parts, John Assaraf um, says it the best. He was in the movie The Secret. He said, hire people who have fun where you work at.
Mhm.
So, when you call me for a flyer because it's you, I'm enjoying it. I can't say I'm gonna do everyone's flyer. That's why we
Oh,
gotta
I would not assume that you would do everyone's flyer. I mean, it's similar to like one of the things that I get to do in my business. So let me just tell you a little bit about Project Move because people are
please
like,
do.
what is Project Move? So first of all, I named it Project Move because I figured that I was combining project management and moving. So the name is just as simple as it comes up to be. My sister laughed at me and said it sounded like an exercise company. So then when I tried to register the business, lo and behold, an exercise company already had the name. And so there go, we end up being Project Move LV, which is Project Move Lehigh Valley. We service more than the Lehigh Valley, but it is what it is. And what Project Move is, it's really a full service moving company where we can work with you from start to finish. So we can help you identify the contractors that you need in order to support a move, whether it be movers, painters, landscapers, etc. And then we also help you with estate liquidation and clearing so that when you have all these things left over, You're like, what should I do with my stuff? I got featured in a Consumer Reports article, which the question was, what should I do with my stuff? And there are hundreds of things that you can do with your stuff. And I do a weekly thing called Throw It Out Thursday. And I can tell you the story about Throw It Out Thursday, which I think is fun. So I feel like I need to share it with you. The
Please
reason
do.
I do Throw It Out Thursday is because I talked to one of my other colleagues who does social media, and she said you need to consistently post. You need to have a consistent presence so that people know who you are, and what you do. And she said, I would love for you to post every day, but that was unrealistic since I was posting maybe like 3 times a month. So I said, what if I can consistently post a series and do it once a week? And so I committed to doing that. So that's the other start that I want you to remember, is that your start is really your start. You do not have to duplicate anyone else, but do something consistently. So my consistency was to post Throw It Out Thursday. And what Throw It Out Thursday, I modeled it after one of my girlfriends. She's a realtor, so she would do her crush, house that she had a crush on Wednesday. And I was like, well, I don't have a crush on anybody's house. So I did Throw It Out Thursday. And, when you think about it, you're like, well, maybe I should have called it something different, but it's called Throw It Out Thursday. And the whole idea behind Throw It Out Thursday is, it's like I pick one thing that I want people to focus on, because I know decluttering it can be overwhelming, but you can pick one thing. So the one week I might pick my sock drawer, and I ask the question, how many socks should one person own? I may pick purses this week because I am asking myself, how many purses should one person own? And the concept behind it is that you can throw out excuses, you can throw out things, and sometimes it's a mindset that I ask you to throw out, a mindset that you might have about yourself. Sometimes it's a thing, but weekly I do a post. It's either a static post or I'll do a video. It's interesting. People really like the videos. And it's really about just one thing. You're just doing one thing. I'm not asking you to do your entire house. I'm just asking you to do one thing. And it's really, that's really helped me because I've become consistent with social media. It made it so that I was comfortable, more comfortable with my voice. And I found that people look forward to it, which I think is kind of funny, because sometimes I'm a little funny with it, but sometimes I go deep, and they were like, oh, I really like this one. And so, like, you find what your audience wants to hear and see. And so it's a good measurement, because a lot of times you don't have a consistent measuring stick to be able to tell what people liked and what people didn't like. But that's a start. You find that one thing that you're going to do consistently, and you consistently do it over and over, and you build it, and you will be surprised. And the whole thing, build it and they will come, the answer is they actually do. Like, I used to think it was funny, but build it and they will come. You're exactly right, and they'll look for it consistently. The first week, they won't even believe you're going to do it the next week. And then the next week, they might not believe that either. But then when you consistently do it, people will say, I saw your post. Now, social media is not the best thing I heard about social media is one of my other colleagues. She does custom closets, and she said, I don't care how many likes I get. No, no, she said, I don't care how many followers I get. I care how many people buy closets. And so that's where we need to get with social media, where it doesn't matter that I had 10 people who liked my post. I want to know how many of those people are actually calling to book me, because that's where you do social media. It's not for likes, it's for bookings, it's for how to make money. So really think about that. Like, if you don't have a huge social media following, because just maybe you only really need like a couple good clients. You don't need a million followers. You need like 10 good clients.
That's real. That is so real. And I love that you said that social media is more about customer engagement,
Mhm.
more about customer, and then also about, actually turning a profit. Most people don't realize what they're on social media for. So that is so, so amazing. But I don't want to miss the opportunity for people to understand that you don't just have one passion, right? You actually have two. So I
Yes.
want to ask, you know, as you stepped into, first of all, how did you become the Queen of Kwanzaa? And then we're gonna let's go there.
Well, 2020, I'm looking back now and realizing that 2020 was such a milestone year for me. It was the year I went full time with Project Move. It was COVID. I don't know, were we celebrating that or what? And it was also the year that I kicked off Celebrating Kwanzaa. Now, Celebrating Kwanzaa is a Facebook group, so I encourage you to check it out and see if I can get my group up to 2,000. I'm not really sure what that'll mean, but in my mind, it's a good milestone. Celebrating Kwanzaa was my opportunity to create community. We were not able to have like in-person gatherings, and so we were doing so many things on Zoom and like kind of like group meetings that were on Zoom, but they weren't really social. They were all really work related. And so I created the Celebrating Kwanzaa Facebook group where I wanted to have a way to celebrate and to bring my family and friends together so that we could have a form of community online. I invited my family and friends. We had about 100 people in the group the first year. I was so excited. I was like, I did a group and it's got 100 people in it. And, like people might not think that's a big deal, but for me, I was like, yeah, girl, you did your thing. And I was so excited. And we did a Zoom presentation. I had one of my minister Charlene. She does a daily devotion for Kwanzaa to talk about the principle and how to incorporate that into your life. I came on and was just like, hey, I'm lighting my candle, and like it was quite a thing. And I was just so excited. Those 100 people, and then the year went by and it was like Kwanzaa was over because Kwanzaa runs from December 26th to January 1st. And I was like, yeah, I did it. And then the year went on. And then, believe it or not, Kwanzaa season came up in 2021. And I was like, oh, well, what am I going to do this year? And, like every year, I tried to do something a little different, like in the group. And then year 4, which was 2023. So like it's kind of weird that this is year 5 and this is 2024, but that's kind of how the years work. And so in 2023 I did a ABCs of Kwanzaa. That was me. And I'm going to explain that doing it with Kwanzaa was easier than doing it with Project Move because I felt like I wasn't on as big a stage. Like I was doing this for friends and family. So I did 26 days, well, actually 27. I introed it one day, and 26 days of posting every day. What I learned is, and I did this, was that you record all the videos in one day. You do not try to do them every day because that's a lot to try to do that. But I did the ABCs of Kwanzaa, and the group grew from about 250 to a little bit over 1,500 people. And I was like, what? So then, you get to sit back and evaluate. So that's what I did. And I sat down with a friend and we're doing this over drinks. So of course, that makes it more entertaining. And I was like, well, what do you think I could do next year? And he was like, well, you ought to like think of it this way. And I could actually, it's funny because you've had him on the show, the guy that I was sitting talking to. You'll never guess who this conversation happened with.
Oh, with Hank Tate, Sean Henry.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And so we're sitting there and we're having this conversation. And I was like, well, what do you think it would take to get more people to celebrate Kwanzaa? And he said, because he's point blank, and he said, well, people don't know how to celebrate Kwanzaa. I was like, but I've been telling them. And he goes, have you? He's like, you've been giving them information, but have you really been telling people how to celebrate? And I was like, well, of course I have. And then he goes, well, what do you need for a celebration? And he said, and I said, well, usually there's music. And he goes, well, what music is there for Kwanzaa? And I said, okay. And then he said, what else you need? I said, like good food. He goes, well, what food you supposed to eat for Kwanzaa? And then he said, and then he goes, well, what do you do at the party? Like, what do you do at the celebration? What are you supposed to do? And I said, huh. And so it was like that simplistic conversation just had my mind going, saying, what are you going to do? And so then I asked friends and I was like, oh, can you write me a Kwanzaa song? And they were like, well, what is a Kwanzaa song? And I was like, well, I'm not sure. And so then you can search on, and then I said, well, let me just look and see what comes up when you search Kwanzaa. And what I found was that none of the stuff really represented who I was or the stuff that I wanted to bring it into my home. And then I thought, oh, there's a gap here. And so I said, well, if there's a gap, then I can fill it. So then I went to my husband and he was like, well, let me just explain something to you. Project Move is your bread and butter. You can do whatever you want with Kwanzaa, but also remember that it's a side hustle because you have not made any money. It is not a business, which means that you need something to fund your side hustle. So when you are thinking about branching out and doing something, make sure you understand what it actually is. Until you make some money, it is not a business, it is a hobby. And sometimes it's an expensive hobby. And so don't get it twisted and don't get upset because people call it a hobby. Because if you don't make money, it's not a business. Should I say it one more time? If you don't make money, it's not a business. And so Kwanzaa is a side hustle. I have not made enough money to say that Kwanzaa is like, ooh, this is the business for me, but it's fun. And so I'm using, but like everything, everybody has hobbies. Hobbies are expensive. Like keep in mind, hobbies are expensive. But then understanding what the potential is. Like some people play golf, knowing they never gonna make pro. But I'm playing Kwanzaa, and I'm gonna make pro.
I love it. Love it. I love it. And what I love that you said for the people, right, is that if it's not making money, it's a hobby. Because many of us have LLC hobbies,
Yes.
right? Right, like we spent a lot of money on these LLCs, and we spent a lot of time, but it's never made us a dollar, so it's still a hobby, And I love that you said, you know, you before you decided that Kwanzaa was going to take over, you realized that it's still a side hustle right now,
Hmm.
and you have to have that main
Hmm.
meat and potatoes that's going to continue to pay your bills. So um as you are uh and you said something I didn't want to skip over because you said so many good things, right? That you've had to take time and make the decision. Do you work frustratingly on Kwanzaa, right? Or do you work in the passion that's currently making you money in
Hmm.
order to pay for this hobby?
Hmm.
And I think that's very key for those people who are in the process of trying to make a transition.
Hmm.
When to say when do I make more money to pay for it, or when do I invest more time to work at it? So how do you find that balance on when do you say when, or how do you find what's when for you?
Well, the key is that I have a business that I understand how it works and I understand the time that's associated with it. You have to have balance with it. It's not like there's sometimes like I mean like there's times when you want me to do something and I'm like, well, Project Move right now is paying the bills. And so I have to be willing to say, okay, thank you for the information, but that's the other reason why I need your support is because I know that if it had to wait for me to actually have the time to actually allocate to it, knowing that it takes me more time than it ever took you, then you have to realize that what that looks like. And so, and then I also have a budget for how much I can spend on Kwanzaa so that it doesn't go into crazy. And so you have to, like be able to balance those things. And so, and it's still fun. Like I do for the Kwanzaa portion, I do things that are fun. Like I'm not into the hard part of the business yet, right? Like I'm still doing the fun things. Like Like the fun thing that I did this year, which is like amazing, and I love telling people this because like again, I'm gonna tell a little joke and you can see if you think it's funny. So so you just gotta laugh, even if it's not funny, but I think it's cute. It's like I'm a rapper that knows how to rap. Get
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
it is pretty corny, but in case you don't get it, I'm gonna explain it. Because I wrap boxes and people's packing stuff, and then I also wrote rap music. So that's kind of like I thought it was funny. So I don't know if that can go on a T-shirt, but it's quite funny if you can.
Hey,
Um,
it can go on your T-shirt that actually blends the two businesses together, right? How
yes,
one, we're talking about funding the second dream. I'm a
yeah,
rapper that knows how to rap,
yes,
So those who spend money with Project Move can
yeah,
also be investing into the Queen of Kwaanza because
yes,
they get the best of both worlds. So yeah,
exactly,
that
exactly.
that's awesome. That
So
is
so
awesome.
yeah,
And you said some things that I really want people to really pay attention to. You said that you put together a budget for Kwanzaa,
yes,
right? So
yes,
you know how much you're willing to invest in yourself, before uh it has to make a profit,
yes,
before you lose your shirt, right?
exactly.
Before the Godfather gives me a phone call and goes, "What are you doing?" You know, you know,
Yes,
uh you did that. And that's so important, right?
yes,
Because a lot of times people go into these dreams, right, as just a dream. No
yes.
focus, no finance, and then wonder why it fails. You
Yes.
know,
And the other thing is, I also knew that if I needed it to be more, if I needed more of a budget, it's like if something cost more than I anticipated, then that meant I had to work harder in Project Move. I mean, there was like months during the summer, I think I worked every day with Project Move, and then I had to like carve out the time to figure out what was happening with Kwanzaa, and then also knowing when to reach out for lifelines and for assistance so that I would be able to provide that support, knowing that there were things that I couldn't physically do if I wanted to get them done, and then I'd have to pay for them. And then I'd have to ask myself, like, is it in the budget? If it's not in the budget, that means you need to work a little bit harder, and like figuring out like what that really looks like. And some of them are hard decisions, some of them are fun, but for the most part, the funnest thing I did this year was actually to record music. And and so I don't know
and I
if
don't want to brush over that. So we're
I
gonna.
mean, that was like the funnest thing I did, where it was also the scariest thing I did because remember, I said Kwanzaa didn't have music. Now, there is Kwanzaa, like, let me get it straight. So people will say there's music and people have recorded songs for Kwanzaa and they've done all kinds of things. And yes, you can find all of those things on YouTube and different platforms. But ask yourself, you say, self, have I heard of any of those songs? Ask yourself, if I have heard of those songs, did I want to listen to them? And if the answer to either of those questions is no, then there's an opportunity. And so I wanted songs that were more contemporary, that would cross over genres, and that were just fun to listen to. And so that's the music that I created for Kwanzaa. Now, there are going to be some traditionalists who are like, I can't believe she did that. But I'm just going to point out the statistics show that 1.25% of the Black population celebrates Kwanzaa. I'm sorry. That's not majority. That's not even minority of minority. That's showing me that 98% of the population is like, I ain't doing nothing with Kwanzaa, which meant that I got 98% of the population to talk to. The 1.25, if y'all got your Kwanzaa music and you straight, then awesome. But those other 98% were like, we ain't got none because we don't even celebrate. So I was like, that's who I was making music for.
And you did a great job.
Thank you.
So I want to, commend you for a couple of things, and I don't want to brush past them too fast because this hour's going faster than you think. Uh, I
Well, that
want
I mean, they say that good things when you're having fun, they time goes by quickly. So we
it,
must
it
be having a
does.
little bit of fun.
It does. So I want to point out that in both instances, your passion, also came behind being finding a solution to a problem that
Yes.
was out there.
Yes.
First with Project Move, first the solution was for yourself.
Hmm.
What do I do? What do I do with me?
Exactly.
And then a solution to the world, because there's so many people. Like, I need to take Project Move and just drop you in my mother's living room. You like all the clutter. Like, that poor lady. I love her. She got lucky that sheepskins came back because she still had hers from the '80s. Like, she don't let go of nothing.
Well,
So
the interesting thing is that I am not in a position where I think I won't have a job for long. I don't think that that is going to be a concern of mine.
yeah, because there's always someone that needs either the
Yeah.
project side of Project Move or
Yes.
the move side, if
Yes.
not the combination of the both. So that
Yes.
was genius,
And
right?
it's really the one thing that I have found the most rewarding with Project Move is that I get to be in a position of service for families, because when you are in a situation where you may have an estate clearing, you may be relocating a family member because of health or any number of conditions, you are completely stressed. You don't know what to do. You have never done it before. And you're in a position where you have to make choices about things that you may or may not understand. And so I am able to use my skills because I've done it before, but as well as I get to be the compassionate partner throughout this process. And that in of itself is such a huge gift that you can give to people. And so so I still have people who will say, people pay you for that? I was like, you'd be surprised. People sometimes would pay me double what I asked for this because they're in a position where they don't know what to do. And sometimes it's a timing issue where they need to do it in a couple weeks. And if you don't know where to start, how can you pull something like this off in a couple weeks?
And that is a blessing. That is a blessing, to be able to relieve a burden in times of need.
Yes.
So that is an amazing thing. And then, being the Queen of Kwanzaa, you also filled the need, right? You filled the need
Yes.
with music, for people who want to not just celebrate Kwanzaa, but people who want to learn about Kwanzaa.
Yes.
There are, unfortunately, there's a whole generation of kids, right, who barely know who Martin Luther King is, let alone what Kwanzaa is. So to be able to find a way to make it fun to learn and even more fun to celebrate is a great bridge to have. So I thank you for creating this space, for people and really stepping into your greatness. You know,
Thank
um,
you.
the pleasure is mine. But I really want to applaud your genius in understanding to build one dream. You can't, neglect the other. Because
Exactly.
what winds up happening is usually in most cases both dreams fail.
Yes.
Right? Both dreams fail because I'm so hung up on being the Queen of Kwanzaa, that I forget that Project Move actually moves the bread into the house,
Yes.
food into the table, and the lights on. Right. So I love that you didn't, allow either of those dreams to fail in order to make one succeed. So I want you to be able to give some insight on that, because there's someone right now, because these are two totally separate businesses. Me and you had this conversation before.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
all of
because
my
like at
businesses,
one point like when I first started, it was kind of like how can I, like make them into like, are they one thing? If that makes sense. Where I often tell people as you are starting businesses, and you have to determine like what's a service that's under your existing business or is it a completely separate business? And so when you have two businesses that are so divergent from each other, you have to be careful of like how you present yourself and what that looks like on social media, because like you only have one, like I only have one Jevatee page, right? Like, I'm not interested in managing 15 different social media platforms that have different headings over them. And so you have to be careful that you are being respectful to your existing brand as you introduce your next brand. And so one of the ways that I explain to people is that when you clear the clutter in your life opens up additional opportunities. And so that's how I'm able to bridge the gap between the two, is because I'm explaining to people that when your thoughts are not cluttered and your spaces are not cluttered, your mind has the ability to look and see different things. And so because I made it so that my business was not full of clutter, that I'm able to have like those little neurons that think of something else, right? Like, like you still are able to have fun with things. And then you're able to, like, one of the things that people ask me is like, why don't you have 10 Kwanzaa products, right? And the reason I don't have 10 Kwanzaa products is I don't actually have the bandwidth to support 10 Kwanzaa products. I have to remember what I'm actually like if you given the choice, like again, I say Project Move is making money. Why would you not put your energy into what's making money? So if I chose to do 10 Kwanzaa products, it may mean that something is going to suffer, because to manage 10 products is again inventory, right? And then that's an additional cost. And so then there's also everything that goes along with inventory and additional cost. And then you're having to figure out shipping, and you're having to figure out all the things that go along with it. And so I wanted to be very strategic. And so when I started like I call it teasing myself by calling myself the Queen of Kwanzaa, it was I don't know, it was like a fun thing to say and it stuck. And then I was like, well, why am I can be the Queen of Kwanzaa. And being the Queen of Kwanzaa actually means that I am a visual, it really means I'm a visual reminder of what Kwanzaa is. And so that when people are like, I want to celebrate Kwanzaa, I want them to like look at my pages, like look at my content to say, well, what is she doing? Who is she? And so that's why I was like, like I can do a candle. Like, like it's not a complex product. It's very specific. It's very on brand. And it also goes on brand with my Project Move, which is saying, I don't want to introduce so much clutter into people's home, because what if they don't like Kwanzaa? And if they don't like Kwanzaa, they bought one candle. Burn that candle, be done with it, right? They can walk away with it. Kwanzaa has a lot of symbols that go along with Kwanzaa. And I, like I'm still on brand by explaining to people that you don't have to have every single symbol in order to celebrate Kwanzaa. So I have to also remember where, like how myself, what does my brand look like? Like I tell people to follow their visions and values, and making sure that their spaces reflect who they are and what they are. I'm never going to tell you to go buy a ton of Kwanzaa stuff just because it's Kwanzaa. I'm going to tell you, follow your brand, follow your passion, make it align with your space, because like the biggest challenge is that if you buy a Kanara, it still needs to go with your decor. And so there's a challenge there. well, like you may not be able to find it. So I went in and I said, well, let me do a candle that has like beautiful artwork on it, and then we can bring that into the home. It works with the whole idea of bringing African inspired artwork into the home to start making your home a little bit more culturally relevant. And so then I could actually talk about it on brand. So it worked with who I am, as well as, like what, like they won't say, oh, well, I thought you was an organizer. Why you bringing all this crap in my house? Well, I'm not introducing a ton of crap. Instead, I'm saying, let's just be specific in what you bring into your home. And here, I'm giving you a tool to make it so that I simplify it. So that's where Kwanzaa candle came in. Originally, it was going to be 7 candles. I was going to be doing all this fancy stuff, and it just didn't make sense. It makes more sense where we have Kwanzaa candle. And then the funny thing is, this is how I knew a lot of people didn't celebrate Kwanzaa. Is because when I wanted the website, Kwanzaa candle was available. So then I knew a lot of people weren't celebrating Kwanzaa because goodness me, if 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 the like usually you can't get the simplest website. You got to be a little bit more creative. So if you're interested, if you go to KwanzaaCandle.com, you'll get information about Kwanzaa as well as that you can order the Kwanzaa candle. And the cool thing is the Kwanzaa candle, well, it's cool. I just think it's cool. It's beautiful. I can show it to you. See, it's beautiful. See, look how beautiful that is. Look how beautiful that is. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. And and it's just a fun thing. So this is new to me. So I say start, because starting is the hardest part, and then you can go from that, from your now to your next, and then you go to your next and to your next. And next year you might be talking to me and I'll be saying, well, Project Move didn't make as much as Kwanzaa Candle, so now Kwanzaa Candle wins and Project Move, so but right now it's Project Move is funding Kwanzaa Candle, and we'll just keep on going.
I love it. I love it. And I told you this time will go by faster than you think. We only, this hour is almost up. So since Project Move is what funds Kwanzaa Candle, let's tell them
Hmm.
how to find you at Project Move, and also how they can get their Kwanzaa Candle. So let's start with Project Move. How do we
Okay,
find
so
your Project Move? What does Project Move do? Services and things that they can book you
Okay,
for.
so if you're interested in Project Move, you can go to our website, which is projectmovelv.com. And what we do is we do estate clearing. So like say you have a whole house full of stuff that you don't want, we'll help you figure out how to liquidate it or donate it or sometimes discard it depending on what it is. We can help you get packed if you're about to move. We can help you select moving companies if you need that. We can help you ship your stuff across the country if you need it to go to different family members. We can sometimes just hold your hand so that we can help you make decisions that are a little bit difficult. So, say for example, you don't know what to do with your plaques from your dad, but you ain't never going to put them on your wall. One little helpful hint is that I tell people to take pictures of them because, frankly, putting them in a box in your basement is not an ideal situation. The key is that when you just don't know what to do when you're about to move, is just pick up the phone and give us a call, because even the consultations, I still do complimentary consultations. And the main reason I do complimentary consultations is because you don't know if you like me, and I don't even know if I like you. And so, therefore, if it's free, we both have an out, and we don't have to feel like, oh, I got to do this because she didn't gave me $100. I don't even have to feel like that because it was free. So that's how you would find us for Project Move. And, everything moving, no questions too small. And the idea is that we want to remove the stress of moving, because the other two stressors are divorce and death. And sometimes we end up dealing with all three of them at the same time, which can be very difficult.
Mm.
And if you are interested in Kwanzaa Candle, isn't it so fun that it's called Kwanzaa Candle, and that's the website, Kwanzaa Candle, but you got to be able to spell Kwanzaa, which is Kwanzaa, and candle's the easy part.com. It's a cool website. I think it's a cool website. And like you see a picture of me, which is also pretty cool. That's funny. I laugh at my own jokes sometimes too. The other thing is that we are and I was doing this even with Project Move, so this is not a new thing. So I probably need to ask you to do a one sheet for Project Move too. Um, the idea is that I will come and speak to your different groups about either one of the topics on how to clear the clutter or how to incorporate Kwanzaa and the seven principles into your daily lifestyle. The cool thing is that I have figured out how to incorporate this stuff into both sides of my life where, I get to use creativity. I get to, like do collective work and responsibility. Like we make money so that we can support the community. So there are just so many ways that you can incorporate the Kwanzaa principles into your life. And I'm delighted that I get to do that with my business and my lifestyle.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. That you told them, first of all, how to get the project moved because that's what pays the bills right now.
Hmm.
That we didn't forget what our premise was, right? That,
Hmm.
how you take one dream to fund another. That we didn't forget that you are the Queen of Kwaanza, or a full introduction, as Jevatee, the Queen of Kwaanza, right? Because
Yes.
there's some people that only think we're Project Move because of the success that Project Move has had, and I want to thank you again for being a problem solver. I think more importantly than anything else, I think that is what I want someone to walk away with today. That my business should solve a problem. My business should alleviate, a gap, right? Because you solved the problem, eliminated a gap, all of those things. How can your business help the world? You
Mm.
have two separate businesses, two way different clienteles,
Yeah.
right? But they both benefit the world, right?
Yes.
Like I said, if I could drop you in my mother's living room, she's probably watching this, getting upset. But it's okay. If I could drop you in my mother's living room and go declutter, like she still has trophies in her house from when I was like 9 years old. Like she holds on to these trophies like they were hers.
So one thing that people, one of the challenges is that people don't know what to do with stuff, and they also are looking for someone else to offer permission to do something with the stuff.
Hmm.
So it's a lot of times it's very easy to stay exactly where you are because you believe that changing is too difficult, because then you have to actually make decisions about stuff that may or may not, like we don't know what baggage people have. So I'll give an example. One of the things is that, like, I love secondhand clothing, but there are people who hate secondhand clothing, and I can tell you both sides of it. I love it because frankly, like I grew up with secondhand clothing that gave me variety. It was like it made it so that I just didn't know what I was going to get, right? Because you don't know what you're going to get with secondhand clothing. And so for me, it creates variety. It gives me joy to kind of be able to think about how the person lived before it. The other side of it is I don't want secondhand clothing because that's all I could have. And so then you run the risk of like acquiring things because you don't want to remember the lack that you had before. And so until we deal and understand with the traumas and how our individual things impact our lives, we will continue to struggle with stuff. And so I hope that the conversations that I have with people, that they can start to understand how the stuff and the traumas and how we lived and what we had, how they impacted. So the stuff is the symptom. It's not the problem. So like you're looking at the trophy, which is a symptom. It's not the issue.
And that's deep. That's deep. Thank you. Thank you. And I told you this hour would go by way too quickly. So before the hour ends, I'd like to have you say our manifesto with us. This
Okay.
is something that we've asked all our guests to do with us. You
Okay.
know, just because it allows us to remind ourselves that we don't have to be perfect. We just got to get started. So our manifesto goes like this. I'll say it all the way through first, and then I'll ask you to repeat after me. So our
Okay.
manifesto goes like this: I love me. I'm worthy. Some people may not like me, but I don't care because the people that matter will be glad that I'm here. So you ready? I
I'm
love
ready.
me.
I love me.
I'm worthy.
I am worthy.
Some people may not like me,
Some people may not like me,
but I don't care
but I don't care
because the people that matter
because the people that matter
will be glad that I'm here.
will be glad that I'm here.
And yes, we are. We were glad that you spent this hour with us, Jevatee. We are glad that you showed us, all of the makings of Project Move, how we got here. We are glad that we spent a full hour with the Queen of Kwaanza. We are glad that you just were willing to tell people to dream big and never give up. So before we sign off, I'm going to allow you to give the last words to our audience.
Well, I'm still not bold enough to try to do some of the lyrics live, but I am getting there. So the words that I would give to people is to to think about what's important to you and then just start and live on purpose.
You heard it first from Miss Jevatee. Think about what is important to you and just start. You don't gotta be perfect. You just gotta get started. If you like
Yes.
these videos, please like, share, and subscribe. Please visit Project Move if you're ready to move. It's holiday season, so get ready to get your Kwanzaa candle. Go get your
Yes.
Kwanzaa candle now so that you can make sure that not only do you have one for your household, but that you can send some to your friends and family. So it's Kwanzaa, KWANZAA candle,
Yes.
CANDLE.com, KwanzaaCandle.com, and make sure that you book the Queen of Kwanzaa if you want to learn about what Kwanzaa means to you. So thank you so much for spending an hour with us. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to get started. Peace.